There are some feelings we all have, but we just don't really get them. That feeling of being exposed, of taking a risk, of not knowing what's going to happen next. For years, the researcher Dr. Brené Brown has been digging into the science behind all of this. So today, we're going to break down her key ideas to give you a clear map for understanding vulnerability, shame, and what it really means to have courage. Okay, so first up, Section 1, Feeling Exposed, in the arena. To really get this, we have to start with a core idea, a metaphor she calls the arena. Now, this isn't a real place, obviously. It's any time in your life you decide to step up and be seen, even when you have no idea how it's going to turn out. It's the starting point for every single act of courage. I mean, think about it. You've totally been here. You write that one message. Maybe it's a pitch to a huge client. Maybe you're finally telling a friend how you feel, or you're hitting submit on that dream job application. You read it over like 10 times, take a huge breath, and you send it. You've done it. You're in the arena. And then nothing. Just silence. And in that silence, what happens? Your heart starts pounding, right? Your palms get sweaty. And your brain just goes into overdrive, questioning everything. Was that too much? What are they going to think? Oh my God, why did I do that? That incredibly uncomfortable feeling, that is the heart of what we're talking about today. That feeling is vulnerability. So let's get into Section 2, Vulnerability is not weakness. Now, most of us have been taught our whole lives that feeling vulnerable is a bad thing, that it's a weakness. But the research shows that this is just flat out wrong. To really get it, we have to tear down that old myth and build a new understanding based on what the data actually says. So what is it really? Let's just put the official definition right here on the table. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's not a character flaw. It is simply the emotion we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. That's it. It's the feeling of being in the arena. It's not something you can get rid of. It's just part of being human and doing anything that matters. And you can break that feeling down into 3 essential parts. First, there's uncertainty. You just don't know what's going to happen. Second, there's risk. Things could go wrong, you could fail, you could get rejected. And third, there's emotional exposure. You've put your real self out there, your idea, your art, your feelings. The research is crystal clear on this. Nothing meaningful, from starting a business to falling in love, happens without all 3 of these things. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. There's this huge paradox, right? When you see somebody else being vulnerable, like they admit they made a mistake or they share something they created, what do you think? You think, wow, that is so brave. You admire their guts. But when we do the exact same thing, our inner voice says, oh no, I'm so stupid. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. And that disconnect, that's what holds us back. All right, so that leads us to Section 3, shame versus guilt. If being vulnerable is the only way to be courageous, then what's the big thing that's always stopping us? Well, the research points to one powerful, universal feeling: shame. Shame is that deep, painful feeling that we are somehow broken, that we're not worthy of love or belonging. It's way more than just being embarrassed. It's a voice inside that says something is fundamentally wrong with us. And to deal with it, you first have to know how it's different from a feeling that sounds similar but is actually helpful. Okay, look at this. This distinction between shame and guilt is one of the most important things you can learn. Let's use an example. Imagine you accidentally hit reply all on a really critical email. Guilt is the voice that says, I did a bad thing. Whoops, that was a mistake. See how it focuses on the behavior? That feeling sucks, but it pushes you to fix it, to apologize. Now shame is the voice that says, I am bad. I'm an idiot. It attacks you, your identity. And that feeling doesn't lead to fixing things, it leads to hiding. Guilt helps us get better, shame just tears us down. Which brings us to Section 4, the armor of perfectionism. So to avoid that horrible pain of shame and the scariness of being vulnerable, what do? We build defenses. Dr. Brown calls these defenses our armor. We build this armor thinking it'll keep us safe from being judged, from failing, from getting hurt. But that safety comes at a huge price. The armor is heavy, it's suffocating, it cuts us off from real connection, and it stops us from ever really showing up and being seen. So let's look at one of the most common pieces of armor we all use. Perfectionism. We talk about it like it's a good thing, right? Like it's about being the best. But the research tells a totally different story. Perfectionism isn't about improving yourself. It's a 20-ton shield that we carry around. And it's driven by one simple, terrifying question. What will people think? It's all about trying to control what other people see so they won't judge us. Let's just put them side by side. Healthy striving is focused inward. The question is, how can I improve this? It's about being better for yourself. But perfectionism is focused outward. The question is always, what will they think of me? Think about writing a report. The healthy striver finishes a great report and sends it in, ready for feedback. The perfectionist polishes that same report forever, not to make it better, but to make it criticism-proof. And often, it never even gets sent. And that brings us to our final section, number 5. What armor are you wearing? The whole point of this isn't to get rid of fear. That's impossible. The point is to get good at spotting your own armor so you can have the courage to choose to take it off. Okay, let's do a quick recap of the big ideas. Number 1, vulnerability isn't weakness. It's our best measurement of courage. Number 2, shame and guilt are not the same. Shame says, I am bad, while guilt says, I did a bad thing. Number 3, we use armor, like perfectionism, to hide from shame. And finally, number 4, just being aware of all this, that is the first, most important step to making a change. And that's really the whole thing right there. Real change doesn't start by learning some new life hack. It starts with the quiet, hard work of just noticing, of recognizing the armor you've been carrying around your whole life, understanding why you put it on, and just feeling how heavy it is. That awareness, that's where all the power is. So I'll leave you with a question to really think about. If you decided to be courageous today, to have that tough conversation, to start that new project, to really let yourself be seen, what's the first piece of armor you would have to consciously take off? What's the weight that's standing between you and your own courage?